we've seen Israel at work. What we haven't seen is his digs, what it's like to be Israel, waking up in the morning or coming home after work or returning after his adventures at the university, or anything of the kind. Or conversely, what it might be like for the two of you to be hanging out and talking. I don't know. But I was kind of interested in Israel Crew's daily life, slice of life moments. See where he might be as of, say, 8 a.m. Not on a work day.
Not on a work day. Okay.
So both of you kind of talk to me about, give me a visual on their...
Do you want to go first or shall I?
Either way.
Okay. You go ahead and I'll follow up.
All right. Perfect. I think often on a we're probably a little different than on a Saturday than on a Sunday. So I'll just on a Saturday, Hope is still out doing her job, and often I tag along with her, and out and about as she goes and meets with the various people that she needs to meet with on a case by case basis. Often hanging in the car, but in that vicinity. On Sunday, in the morning, maybe going to a brunch, and then in the afternoon, picking up on whatever academic work I need to work on.
Okay, well, today Hope will tell you that she's got a lead onto a somewhat more difficult or complex work situation than she anticipated. Speaking of difficult and complex, Jonathan, this is a very poor time. I just began. Okay? Good night. Can you get to bed like we asked?
Sorry, just that.
Yes? No, it's not true. Oh, wait, you're right. But go upstairs, okay? Go. Kids are really giving me the biz tonight. I'm sorry.
No worries.
No worries. I know what it's like.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. Hope is, first of all, what's her last name?
Walker.
Walker. Hope Walker and you are driving because that's what people do in LA. And the primary conversation is that she's working up a particularly complicated case, and today might be a longer day than usual in terms of where to go and what they might discover. And she'll explain. As I mentioned last time, there have been some disappearances that at first just sounded like rumors, but they sounded the same from different sources, and so she started looking into it. One of the companies that she looked into, she visited the other day and confirmed by eye that there were definitely undocumented workers there. But to her, she doesn't work for Homeland Security or the border, INS or ICE or anything like that. So she's much more interested in this from a helping people standpoint. Mm-hmm. Probably a state job as well. One of these interesting things where state positions are in complete juxtaposition with one another. And so therefore, she's less interested in busting undocumented workers than she is in looking for the way that all workers are required to be treated by law. And if she finds
in fact, she'll go out of her way to make sure that she doesn't, identify.
I was going to say she knows which side of that issue that she's on.
Yeah. That's one of her disadvantages that I know that I get.
Mm-hmm. And so, therefore, the way she describes it to you is with a particular set jaw, steely glare, a certain lack of, I wouldn't say lack of consideration, but certainly a lack of sympathy for the other drivers on the road. And as she speaks, and it's clear that she thinks something very dangerous is happening. One of the downsides of all these crackdowns is that it makes the employers more ruthless rather than more law-abiding. And so she's worried that people are being spirited off to keep the roster rotating, to make people hard to find, and that the usual kind of, over-the-border worker, which is at least legal, is being downplayed for people who are brought over, and then who knows what happens to them. And she's wondering if there isn't sort of an almost form of human trafficking, which they're brought over the border and then farmed somewhere else and from place to place in kind of a, lend-lease way from the people who brought them over. Right. Well, we don't call it that in this country. And so, and besides, she's familiar with the rhetoric that, they came over by their own choice, so they deserve what they get, and why should they get free health care here anyway? Hope gets to hear a lot of that kind of talk. So she, of course, her rejoinder is, as she's now just talking back like to the steering wheel, and her rejoinder is, if I can ever find out where all these undocumented workers are getting free health care, I'm going. So the point is, you guys are starting. This has been you're used to Hope kind of getting up ahead of steam about these things, but there's a lot of multiple lane, long wait traffic in Southern California highways, and and when you get off them onto the secondary highways really aren't much different from just multiple stoplight main drags through multiple tiny little hamlets. So mostly defined by which, chain stores, you see periodically along them. And so, palm trees, it's very pretty. Desert's beautiful. No question. And you're starting to realize you're seeing a little more desert than asphalt at this point. You guys are getting out there. You're driving, into the burbs.
Bakersfield or something.
Well, okay. I'm thinking the northeast.
Okay.
Going up
San
into
Bernardino area.
Yeah. Well, San Bernardino is a whole new county. You're not in there yet, but you're headed out that way. Palmdale-ish.
Okay.
I would say. So, therefore, it's, this is not technically out of her jurisdiction, but it's definitely pretty far. She usually doesn't have to go very far. And she says that she's been, she's glad that you're coming because she's going to be dealing with people that don't know her. And she's a little concerned about some of the bureaucracy she's going to have to deal with, because some of it at least borders on or is partly under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Air Force.
Okay.
So anyway, so there you guys are driving out there. You probably stop at least once for some coffee. You probably talk about a few other. What do you talk about with Hope when she's? Like I said, she's a woman on a mission. She's got her grim side. But I'm sure you guys had at least a nice chit chat. She saves a little nice for you. And, what do you tell her?
I'm sure that, I wouldn't have covered the details of, the incident in the library with her. I would have talked to her about the speech that was given beforehand, and how and kind of the rhetoric that was contained therein.
She's kind of amazed, just like it's as though these guys are doing everything with their education except think about it. She's okay. Two things. First of all, she looks at you and says, "Yeah, you look kind of tired." That's when she suggested stopping off and getting coffee. So it's better than a McDonald's. There's probably, you can find one of the few remaining diners out there on the corner of some intersection, some massive 8-lane intersection. Stoplights everywhere, palm trees, mountains in the distance, scrubland, the various supermarkets, Taekwondo mall, strip mall, studios. I'm trying to think of some of the nail tech salons, investment company outlets, in those little chain offices they seem to have. Places like Edward Jones and those kinds of, State Farm, all that sort of thing. And so in the middle of this...
Probably a massage parlor or two.
Probably, right?
In that town.
Okay. And so...
Really? Palmdale's rougher than I thought.
Yeah. Well, Palmdale's got I looked it up. Palmdale's actually got a median income of $84,000 a year, which in this day and age is rather high for a median income.
Pretty good.
But they're talking mainly about the communities that are well off of the highways. And in these kind of like little town establishment kind of landscaped areas, a little off the main highways. You're driving on roads that people are driving through the area. And so that's why you're seeing more of this kind of generic landscape rather than the typical resident or the average level of resident in the area whom you're not seeing. But the point is, you guys have stopped, got some coffee, and on the way out, Hope stops and says, "Hey, come take a look at this. What you were just talking about with religion and symbols and stuff like that, that really, I've been seeing this in town." And on the side of the dumpster next to the diner, which I see very much as kind of a standard brickish, strip mall-like establishment. At the end of it is the diner, of the strip. And on the side is where the dumpster is. Nobody ever drives around that unless except to make deliveries and stuff. And maybe you guys had to back and turn around to get the nose pointed, of the car pointed the right way. And she says, "Look at that." And there is the weirdest spray painted, but not just hastily tagged, actually a pretty precise spray painted image of a cross, and it says MV on it. She says, "I've been seeing a lot of that."
Is the cross shaped like a Christian cross, or more like the Iron Cross?
Oh, right, correct. Yeah, this is actually a very Catholic looking cross. In its proportions.
Right.
That's the image. She said, variations on that. I've seen a lot of that in town just in the last, she thinks a little bit, less than a year. She says, yeah, I can't say precisely, but less than a year.
Interesting. And I asked her if they all have if they have the same, I'll call it an artist tag with MB there.
Well, she says that's what catches my eye. Sure. You can find crosses tattooed and spray painted all over, LA on any day of the week. But that's what caught my eye. It's different. It's not the same tag. I'm not even sure she thinks. I'm not even sure it's a tag. It's it goes with a cross. It's part of the image, not a signature.
Okay.
And
do I remember having seen it or probably not?
You don't drive in the same areas that she does typically.
Sure.
And so yeah, she's kind of scratches her chin a little bit and says, That's just weird. Keep sipping. I wonder what that is. Well, she'll explain. You guys are headed out to an area that's headed toward what's called Plant 42. Plant 42 is associated with the U.S. Air Force, but not all of its property, or not all the property that it's part of is public. Some of it's private. Well, public's not the right word. State-owned. Military-owned. Some of it's military-owned. Some of it's privatized. Some of it's used for municipal purposes. There's at least one aircraft plant out there that's fully classified. And so when you're getting out toward that area, things are a lot more desolate. There's no residential space drops down sharply as you guys head in that direction. So, Jason, I'm interested in Israel's situation, Israel Cruz.
Well, Israel lives in a detached garage that's been modified into an apartment, only that's not legally visible from the street because it's too hard to do in most California municipalities legally.
Right.
So he lives in it with his brother. It's 2-room. And it's pretty nice inside. You just can't tell what it is from the street.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
No, sorry. Did I say he lives in Corona or Encino? Well, whichever.
Right. I think you may have said Corona in the past session, but okay.
I think Corona's more working class than Encino, so I think that would be better. Are we saying specifically his activities on a non-work day?
I'm just thinking of the getting up in the morning part.
Well, I guess his brother's missing, right? So,
right.
Israel's typically a guy who's fond of a leisurely morning, but not this morning because he has to go look for his brother.
Got it. Okay.
So he gets up, he has breakfast, he tries calling his brother's phone a few more times, presumably with no success.
At this point, no.
Then he gets in his truck and heads off down to Venice Beach to search for his brother.
Just start with an intelligence roll.
Makes it easily.
Okay, good. What's he drive?
He drives one of those nondescript white work trucks with the toolboxes that lock on the side of the bed.
God, those things. It's like
you see them everywhere.
Second only to those damn vans that are very, very similar. Yeah. So, so good. Yeah, he's looking around, and really, having made that intelligence roll, you hit all of the spots. And one thing you'll find is that other people are looking for him or worried about him too.
So I imagine due to the nature of Venice Beach, he's actually paid for parking somewhere and is walking around. It's the kind of town you can walk around it given enough time.
Yeah, sounds
and driving around it sucks.
Yeah, impossible. Right.
You
go there and you stop and you get out and walk. I totally
you park
get
somewhere,
that.
you get out and walk around.
Right.
And most of the sort of nightlife a young man would want to participate in Venice Beach is all like either on the beach or 2 blocks down. So even though the city's larger than that, the actual strip of places you'd look is actually fairly narrow.
No problem. You get a pretty good geographic scan of Venice Beach when you do that, and frankly, you strike out real hard to the extent where now you're worried.
Okay.
Because it's especially by talking to this person who's talking to that person, you can kind of triangulate what they're saying, and that rules out about 5 other places you would look.
Well, this sort of homemade recording studio that's somewhere in Venice Beach, is that something I can locate?
Yes, with a roll of that kind, you absolutely can.
I go there.
Well,
and see what there is to see. I do not have my happy face on.
Mm-hmm.
I am an irritated, upset-looking man.
And
so we'll just throw that out.
I definitely got it. Yeah, you don't not a morning,
not a poker face.
Yeah, not a morning dude. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what you're going to find is that you will. Okay, what I had in mind was not a hotel room, and not even one of those sort of, weird motel-looking apartment complexes they have, but rather a detached house, which is one of those sort of leftovers that's on the end of a block.
Okay.
That's, owned by somebody, but it's probably due to get, the developers have had their eye on it for the last couple of years, and, it's probably just being rented out until the right real estate deal can be cut.
Okay.
And so therefore it's not really kept up, and nobody really cares who's renting in it, which is why,
All right.
through hook, crook, the luck of the draw, about 6 guys have thrown in any 3 or 4 of them making the rent that month.
Okay.
And most of it's been hung up with blankets, and there's a makeshift recording studio there, as I mentioned briefly before. The people who live there aren't real hung up on formalities, so it's not too surprising when you get there that the first thing you see of human habitation is somebody on the junky couch in the makeshift recording studio whose feet are sticking up in the air because they're asleep.
Oh, okay. So I knock loud. I open the door because, the door's like partly open anyhow. The door to this place wasn't really closed. It was just sort of only open a little.
Precisely my view, yes.
So I open it up the rest of the way, and then halfway standing in the doorway, bang on the door. So I'm already halfway in, but I don't go all the way in.
It takes a little while, but somebody leans out from one of the adjoining rooms and goes, yeah, hold on a minute. And the guy, whoever it is on the couch, just groans. They'd sort of ignored the whole banging thing the entire time. And so these guys aren't like drugged out or stereotypical. Well, they're stereotypical in a lot of ways, but they're not, useless in a Hollywood, no pun intended, in a movie way. But they're not morning people either. And so therefore, that it takes one good look at you though, and they both kind of get serious because you look scary. And so yeah, you're dealing with 2 guys, one with a super short crew cut and one with an abundance of dreads, and they are trying to kind of pull themselves together and get with it. They're really afraid that maybe you came to kick them out. They're talking about the rent. I mean, they're like tumbling over each other talking about the rent.
I tell them, I go, look, I'm Salome's brother, and he didn't come home yesterday. I don't know where he is.
Wow. First of all, they're just like, they're like, whoa, holy shit. And they're kind of admiring your tattoos, which outdo anybody's. And, the one says, yeah, we are really worried about him too. He was supposed to meet up with us last night. He was supposed to, we've got this. Have you heard our song? I mean, it's going crazy out there. We don't even know what to do. We were going to, do a blog or something. I mean, figure out how to do that. And I mean, they do internet publishing already, but Casey's not there, and he's the guy who does all that stuff. And so they were going to try and figure everything out. And they really, really needed Salome because he wrote the damn thing. So they were, they say, so they're all about trying to find him too.
All right. Where was when was the last time you saw him?
Okay.
Where was the last place you saw him?
Exactly. You swing into this, and you guys are busy trying to coordinate. Now that they've kind of taken the moment seriously, they are fully articulate, fully able to deal, and stuff like that. There's one of them actually even pulls a curtain away from the windows, so there's it's not quite so dank. So but the important thing for you guys to know now is that the door that you left open is now occupied as someone comes in. And it is it? Could that be Salome? Because he looks... Oh, first of all, it looks like somebody hosed him off. And then it looks as though somebody had given him a shave and a haircut that's a little more expensive than any haircut you can remember in your entire life. And bought him clothes that aren't any clothes you've ever seen him wear, because they look like somebody who would be hiring you to work at a Radio Shack or something. And he is beaming, big charming smile, which is the one thing you recognize. And he is holding expensive takeout coffee in a tray of several takeout cups with the little leet green logo of the coffee place displayed on each cup, because you're supposed to be like a better person if you buy this coffee.
Right. So the first thing I did, because I'm a bit of a jerkish older brother, is I take one.
Right. Although I do kind of like the idea of the three of you in that room for the moment having an identical expression as you stare at him. But okay, you're first. You take your coffee. Right.
I take coffee. And the second thing I do is switch from English to Spanish, specifically. I think the accent's called Chilingo,
okay,
which is a Mexico City accent. So I switched specifically to Mexico City Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically say, "Where the hell have you been?"
Right.
I was worried sick about you. Where did you go?
Excellent. I am being invaded.
Okay.
No, you're not getting your phones. Oh, for reading. Oh, yes. Good. Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. Is Mama home? Okay. Up. She's going to read to her brother. So I have relinquished the devil object. One of these.
Yes.
So, well, what I have to say is that he will respond in Spanglish of a particular kind, which is best described as hip radio DJ Anglo-friendly Spanish.
Ron, most Hondurans would tell you you've just described Mexican Spanish.
Well, that's probably true, but I think that but it was particularly in that area of that, the area with the place with the artificial border running through it that crossed people instead of people crossing it. So perhaps so, but it's but he doesn't use quite as hip and jargony. I mean, Salome, for all of his shortcomings, nobody has ever accused him of being inauthentic.
Okay.
And so this is almost a little too, like I said, a little too friendly, a little too, and hey, he uses phrases like the whole chimichanga, or, es el tiempo para rock and roll, time to rock and roll, kind of thing. It's like he's talking funny. So just imagine that kind of phraseology throughout, as he says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "I've got some great news for the band. It's been a great day, and it's going to be a great day." And he says, "And it's a beautiful morning," which is really weird because the last time Salome saw a morning, like at all, for purposes of comparison, was probably a decade ago. So therefore, he's the band members in particular are looking distinctly creeped out because he's talking about, and they barely hear that he's talking about recording, really recording commercially, getting into distribution, a deal.
Well, my first thought is that my brother has, and I'm alarmed by this, at long last switched from pot to cocaine.
Right. That's actually that would be an interesting, very, very important thought balloon at this point. He doesn't.
My
Right.
second thought balloon is even worse. He has an agent.
Right. That's right. Triple. That's 2 times of the pitchfork, right, for LA, right? So an entourage would probably be the third. So
yeah, that would be the inevitable third.
Right. So you're kind of, you're all kind of looking at him, and finally what it kind of gets through, and one of the band members says, or the musicians, I can't really say band members, but the people who do this, a deal? But he kind of looks back and forth and says, but we swore, music wants to be free, remember? And so clearly Salome's kind of gone off message as far as this whole endeavor was concerned.
I am sympathetic with, if my brother has sold out, life is hard, and I'm sympathetic with that. On the other hand, honor cannot be bought at any price, and if you've said you're not going to do that, then you shouldn't.
Uh-huh.
However, I'm wise enough to actually say nothing. And
because you're trapped between 2 worlds.
Yes. And also because I want my brother to figure this out on his own.
I see. Okay, good enough. So
unless I absolutely have to do something.
So what he will, the interaction will go on. I have some thoughts on some things you might want to find out or talk about in a moment or two, unless there's something you want to follow up on specifically.
No, I'm watching this strange transformed version of my brother for the moment, trying to get a grip on it. But I take it they sidebar into a conversation about music should be free plus versus we should be able to pay our rent and live well, sort of.
Partly, maybe not quite that theoretical. The other guys don't want to rain on his don't want to be, they smell success too, after all, and so they're not going to
right.
they're not going to completely go all anarchist on him. But you can tell that this has really thrown them for a loop. They've been taken by surprise and are just trying to cope a little. He does want to talk about our new recording of Malverde, the song.
Right.
And
now that's interesting.
Right, mm-hmm. So, and that's where things might start getting kind of interesting. So let's hold off on that as, they're willing to listen. And he's got to tell you something. I'm not going to say the coffee's good, but it's definitely upgraded. It's definitely high end. And so, therefore, they're kind of, the way to a man's heart is with coffee, and so therefore they're busy listening while they're downing it while they can. So, Rick, here's what I'd like you to consider. First of all, are you going to be proactive in any way with all of this? I mean, Hope says it'd be helpful if you could kind of come with me, and if they ask who you are, you can just say that you're. If you just say you're my assistant, that'll be fine.
I think that's the normal line we tend to use, or just.
And you have a nice combination. You have a nice combination of professionalism and former badassery that works very, very well in men talk. So like with business owners and stuff like that. So,
and I tend not to say anything in those situations because
right.
I get nasty looks from her
Right.
if I even open my mouth at all.
Okay, good enough. Let's also specify that you've pulled up at. Okay, she explains. This is part of the aircraft assembly plant that is associated with the classified area, but it's privatized. So this is actually a private business that we're going into, and this is the one that I've kind of traced. You know, the disappearances are indirectly traceable to these regions. She also explains she doesn't have to explain to your character. This is kind of the as you know conversation for the listener, or maybe it's a caption or something explaining. But you mentioned San Bernardino, just over the county line, which you guys aren't that far away from now, at least in LA driving terms. There's
a whole mountain range in between us.
Well, yes, that's true. But that's true. Yeah, you guys are in Antelope Valley, roughly. And so, but there's a town just over the border, just on the other side of the mountains, called La Fontana. And the ownership of this particular business is in La Fontana. So therefore, if there's ever any problem, she says it's really hard getting a line on this because they always refer me to Los Angeles County and the Air Force. And Los Angeles County or the Air Force always refers me back over to San Bernardino County, and and the paperwork's impossible. So I'm just coming out here myself.
Got it.
And so she says it's going to be boring. I have to talk to some people, and they're going to give me a runaround. But what I'm really doing is getting a look around the place, like I usually do, and then I follow up a little later, with some outreach. So, but I'm a little worried, she says. Disappearances, especially sort of a mass transport of people, that could be pulling me into some litigation or into some charges or some action on my agency's part that really means, more than just doing our jobs. So I just want to let you know she says, here's another way to put it. If I have to go and talk to somebody privately and leave you waiting around, if half an hour goes by, come get me. Any way you can. So then that might, alarm. She's never implied any physical threat. She's been in some tough places, and Hope just goes in there with her shoulders back and, uses the right phrases and is able to get where she needs to go pretty much anywhere, professionally speaking. This is the first time she's ever implied some kind of physical danger.
Ask if we should have the authorities come and help her.
Well, she says, this is where we get the reasons for them to care in the first place.
Okay.
Especially because I'm operating off of testimony of people whose testimony wouldn't be considered testimony.
Well, maybe I should stay with you the whole time.
If you can. So there's Palmdale, and there's the in general, and then there's the kind, now that you're sort of in the outskirts, and again, you guys didn't really go into any of the residential areas or the, the business parks or anything like that. You went, around and about out where the airbase and the aircraft plant are, which is out in the hinterlands, obviously, and the buildings and businesses look more like this. They don't have storefronts. They don't have landscaping to speak of. So you're going to be headed in places like that. And to make a long story short, Hope and you have to go to several different buildings and get referred to different places, and she skillfully evades being shunted over toward the military. where she rightfully considers that she would just get so thoroughly stonewalled, there's no way. But sooner or later, she gets a chance to talk to some of the foremen, people who actually manage it. They're very big on, we document our workers. We have union labor, Union American labor in charge of everything, and here's all the paperwork.
In charge.
Yeah. And so, here's all the paperwork. So you guys spend some time out there. Hope says to you, these guys are pretty well prepared for someone like me. To get anywhere, we're actually going to have to talk to some of the people who actually work here. And I don't think there's really going to be any way to do that except to hang around until a shift gets off. We're coming up on early afternoon, so the early morning shift is going to get bussed off. Oops, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Jason. I mean, if you need to go, you're good?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
So the early morning shift is going to get bussed off, and the midday shift is going to be brought in, probably work till 8 or 9 at night. So therefore, she says, I know the schedule of these things pretty well. We're gonna hang back, and when one of those filthy old buses leaves, we'll follow. So that's the plan. Do you want to tell her anything else? What I'm not fishing. What I'm really saying is trying to get an idea of just the two of you interacting. That's
Well, so what time is it roughly now?
it's coming up about 12:45, maybe. You guys are hungry.
About 12:45, and we think this is going to be coming really shortly, or
yes,
or no.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if it's going to be coming, if it's going to be coming really shortly, I don't want to disappear and miss it,
right?
Because then we'd have to wait another 8 hours or something like that for that event. So I think I don't know. Is there a vending machine nearby? I can
probably, yeah. A few crackers with cheese, loosely speaking. A few things like that.
Cheese spread or something.
Yeah.
Hostess spray.
Yeah. Hostess prize.
I'm going to say that I'm going to go run over and grab something. Grab some, and while I'm there, just take a look around where that vending area is and see if there's any, employees that are hanging out there. Or
okay, well, the kind of employees that we're talking about, the kind of employees that we're talking about aren't going to be anywhere where there's a vending machine. The vending machine is going to be more in sort of the sort of white collar area. And remember, this doesn't have like public reception or anything like that. You actually have to walk like among cubicles to get to the vending machine. People are looking at you.
I had to go inside the business to get to the vending machine.
Yeah. There's no outside space. The place is. It gets baking hot out here, and nobody. The from the outside, just like the photo shows, from the outside the place just looks deserted because nobody's out there. Let's see if I can help you with some of your points, though. It is possible for you to you don't have disguise, so really there's no chance for you to just waltz into some secure area like you belong there. It's not a large urban anonymous situation where you can kind of jostle your way in with 18 other people. And so, therefore, the only way you could probably get where you want in terms of accomplishing much is magical, superpowered.
Okay. Now, as I'm going through the vending machine, just, not stopping and staring at each desk or anything like that, but is there anything that I see on the desks as I'm going through that would catch my eye, and
this is another one of the skills. Do you have the skill detective work?
I do.
That is what you need. because that's what it's for. Detective work is one half actual sleuthing, and one half is basically a glorified luck roll.
So I'm going to go ahead and use my overall level to add to my detective work, and I'll roll for you. And easily. 6.
Perfect. So, yes, indeed, knowing what to look for, and with the practiced eye of, eliminating what is not important to what you need to know, and spotting the right kind of badge or whatever on the hung up vest or coat, not like a warm coat, but just a light jacket, maybe if somebody hung up on a hook, you can see where to look. And so you do, and you will quickly and easily find that there is a category of worker which actually is labeled MV. And that category is collated away from all the other much more complicated labor paperwork that goes on. It's almost like a one single box that they toss the MV stuff into.
Okay. As I'm walking by, is there, maybe on the way back, after with a couple of vending machine things sticking out of my pockets, I want to kind of, as I'm going to come back, I'm going to kind of look like I'm holding a couple things in my hand, including just happens to be holding my phone, which has a bag of chips over the face.
Right. Well, yes. You're being most sneaky now. So go on. Yes.
And have my camera app running,
snipping away. Right.
The backside is exposed, and that a picture keeps appearing on there, and I'll periodically stop at the spots that I scouted out on the way in, and take some pictures, and then we'll cut back over to Hope, who's very impressed by your pictures. And the two of you doping things out can say, all right, we need to be out there at the airfield, the actual, where all the worst labor is done is actually where the junky aircraft parts get tossed and then sorted and dealt with for disposal, which is a nasty, boring, heartbreaking, out there, hot in the sun kind of job. Not to mention heavy metals and things like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, to do this in a properly regulated way would require high pay and high maintenance on the part of the employer. So doubtless we will go out and find a whole bunch of highly paid and well-maintained people laboring.
Wearing protective gear.
Exactly. So yes, that's why you would end up in a place that looks like this. And the first thing that, so you guys actually have to do a little bit of artful driving, and probably have to walk over some scrub, and even, I would say, through some fencing, except that out here, it's not very maintained, so actually getting through the nominal, double barbed wire fence really isn't very hard. So it's not like you guys have to go over a prison security fence or anything like that. Out there are a couple of buses that have been parked, and you are not, Hope says, this is kind of scary. I mean, sometimes, the guys who work these gangs of laborers, they're usually armed. So we've got to get some documentation and find out where people go. She said, when they get off shift, find where people go, and then we can talk to people there. But right now, maybe we should just hang back a little bit and wait for that. In other words, she's starting to get a little scared. of getting out there in the midst of all this. However, make a perception roll.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
All right.
16.
Right. Okay.
I don't see the people coming up behind me.
Well, I did just make a percent. Yeah, I did just make another roll in case, see if they spotted. We saw if you spotted anybody, and we're also seeing if anybody spotted you, which they do. And so, therefore, it probably isn't too surprising that when you are just talking about turning around to go, you'll see that there are some people at your car. Interestingly, they are the one guy who looks like he's more in charge, who's Mexican or Mexican American, doesn't have a rifle. Or, as you can tell, at least not immediately obvious, any small arms. He's not wearing like a holster. He doesn't have a security badge. He doesn't look like, kind of that sort of rent-a-cop look that security have at places like this. And that's kind of what you might expect, some kind of guy who looked like the way I just described. And he looks a little bit more, a little more rough and tough, a little more off the books. And instead of, saying, "Excuse me, ma'am, excuse me, sir, but are you aware that this is private property? I'll have to ask you to leave," and having taken your license plate and all that kind of stuff to run a check on you. That's what you would expect. And instead, he's kind of smiling a little and walking with a little bit of a swagger toward you. And you can see that there are several other people standing around at the car with him, which doesn't look right at all, because they look like laborers, not like security people. And they're all standing in kind of an odd, listless, disinterested way. And as he approaches you, he says, how sarcastically is kind of hard to say, but it's something like, "Hey, any way I can help?"
So, given that, I'm going to pause for just a moment.
I hope everybody just did a little shudder, because that's what I was aiming for.
While I'd like to respond, knowing what will happen if I respond before giving Hope a chance to respond.
No, right.
I'm going to save that argument for later. I'm just going to make sure I kind of physically put myself between her and him, but just kind of stand as tall as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And
sounds good. Yes.
Cross my arms and glance back and make sure that she's going to respond.
Okay. Yeah. She looks at you and she kind of, swallows a little, as in, okay, here goes nothing way, and holds up her ID, cites her state agency, cites the case number that she's working on, and that she, she's authorized to be here, although you're aware that she's actually doing a preliminary investigation based on hearsay, so she's pushing this a little bit. "Hey, Jason, I'm sorry. I've been leaving you out, and because I was so proud of myself for all my little research and photos, that I forgot all about you and Israel. So talk to us about what's going on there."
So before Israel was napped and tattooed and generally magically tortured, he was essentially marginal Mexican Catholic, right?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really think that much beyond about religion, beyond the just what was sort of in his immediate environment,
right?
But since then, he's actually done a considerable amount of reading about the kind of Santa Muerte religion and sort of the various narco saints and stuff.
Would we have seen maybe a book or two back at his place when he got up in the morning?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there are, in fact, several excellent scholarly works on the topic. He knows a bit about Malverde, about Greenbad, and he knows enough to know that he sees the hand in this whole thing of Jesus Malverde.
Mm-hmm.
That the hand of the narco saint is here.
Mm-hmm.
And that since Malverde is a saint not only of good luck, but of bad luck and death, this is very alarming. So probably what needs to happen now, in his opinion, is some sort of sacrifice or reckoning to the saint. And if I'm not wrong with Jesus Malverde, that usually means a sacrificial stone thrown on specific cairns. That he has specific worship points as a saint that are piles of rocks where people offer sacrificial rocks, which is all symbolic of the tomb of Jesus Malverde, which, since how Jesus Malverde wasn't actually a real person, but a pretend person, could be in any of a number of places. It's not geographically specific.
And it's really too bad that the other two characters that we're playing at the moment haven't read the same book. So therefore, and this is not Mesopotamian religion we're talking about. So therefore, it is unlikely that little cairn of rocks not too far away from the car would be recognized by either Kareem or by Hope.
Okay.
So, and if we were looking at the comic book right now, then it'd be kind of like that one.
So
across the panels,
Israel realizes his dismay. He needs to find one to set the balance right again before something terrible happens to his brother, as the unpredictable intervention of the narco saint happens.
Got it. Well, there's
right.
Mm-hmm. I should also let's make an intelligence roll as well.
Me?
Mm-hmm. For
which one of us? Me?
Israel.
Israel. Yeah. I'm not sure. Hold on.
So the number listed for intelligence, that's the target number.
Right. Well, I rolled so low last time I didn't even have to look at the sheet, but I'm not quite so sure this time. So
I'm sure it's an 11. It's an 11 or a 12.
It's 11 because it's standard.
Right.
And he rolled, in fact, an 11. So
perfect. You're good. You're good. Yes.
Right.
You are. And so you do recall that the kind of luck that it has a lot to do with the song, and it has a lot to do with the way your brother is talking about the song right now, which is very much about proper propitiation of the saint will rise. You will rise with the good luck, and the bad luck and stuff will descend upon those who are less, deserving or less propitiatory than you. And there's kind of a creepy feeling to it that you're kind of like spreading around a bunch of bad so you get off fine. The whole remember what the song was originally about was don't let anybody co-opt the goodness of the legend, which was all about, the common man, all about property distribution, all about the song that your brother already recorded was all about that, and don't let it get appropriated, don't be fooled by some fake version of this, right?
Well,
so now he's talking all about what I'm saying is your brother seems to have done a 180 in terms of this specific issue. The specific topic. And he's even talking about
alarming.
Changing the song. I mean, he's saying, we got to get the song isn't quite right. We got to change up the message. We got to give it the right message.
Huh. Okay, so. So my first thought is
Israel remembers that he's a superhero in a superhero comic, and we aren't just fucking around with family drama, right?
Right. No. My next thought was that Israel realizes how dangerous it is to attract the attention of any non-corporeal entity at all, any demon or angel, or it's just a bad idea, and especially a narco saint. Well, that was my next thought.
Especially because you encountered two rather alarming spiritual super entities not too long ago anyway, right?
Yeah, just a few days ago.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I think my first thought is I should take a really hard look, just a physical look at my brother to see if there's any. Now that you freaked me out by saying pod brother, to see if it really is my brother.
Always the back.
That's a horrible.
Always check the back of the neck, right? We all know about that.
So yeah. And I'm not real subtle, so I'm actually looking at the back of the neck.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, come here.
Looking it over.
Right. Well, and no problem at all. I don't need a perception roll for this. There is a tattoo right there at the base of his neck. Not the base, meaning like at the actual bump of the spine, but up on the neck, on the cervical vertebrae instead, but lower down. And it is an MV. It is ornate, and guess what? When you look at it, it glows.
Uh-oh. Okay. So the first thing I need to do is talk to my brother privately. So being a very subtle person, I simply grab him in mid-conversation and drag him outside.
I figured I totally get that. It was completely my image as well. Come here.
Yeah. I say to my brother, what's up with the tattoo? Where did this come from? This wasn't here a few days ago.
Well, he is how am I going to say? He starts talking about how, look, this is going to be great for Mama and everybody else back home. It's going to be great for you. You're not going to have to bust your ass out there with, all those. He doesn't use a Mexican word like pendejo or anything like that. He says loser in a perfect Southern California accent. Loser. You won't have to be working out there with all those losers anymore. And he is, and he's talking very, and it's not a cocaine like bullshit artist rant. He's actually trying to talk to you really reasonably, like, take a deep breath, okay? Look, I know, but really, I mean, come on. And he pats you on the arm. He says, come on, you should be in on this. You should have been first in line.
Well, first of all, I like busting my ass to make a living. But secondly, when did that happen? Who?
And he says,
who did you get the tattoo from?
He says, look,
yeah,
I have some friends who they work for, they're day laborers. They just get bussed wherever they get bussed. And they heard the song and they wanted me to come out and, sing and talk to some, their friends. And that was cool. They were good guys. They were going to take me out there. And I went out and, well, we got to talking. Then he kind of fuzzes out a little bit. And you can actually see him kind of just go blank. And that's why, and he just launches straight into it, and that's why you and I are going to make all of the family's dreams come true. He says, listen, we do this, it's green cards for everyone. Do you hear me?
So
Are you taking me seriously for once, Israel?
Oh, I'm taking you very seriously. But where did you go? Where was it?
He says, well, there's this place out there out in Antelope Valley, there's some There's some places where the workers live. Took us, all day to get out there.
Do you know exactly where it was?
He kind of says, I wasn't exactly paying attention.
Let me have your phone.
He, without handing it to you, he just holds it up, looks at it, and says, "What? Why?"
I snatch it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes.
So here's my thought. So I'm going to leave my brother here with his friends to not let him out of their sight. So like they should, and they shouldn't go anywhere to meet vague, just to like meet some people who are cool or anything like that.
Yeah, but that's code for getting a wreck. That's code for like dressed for success in LA. No one ever tells you where you're going. You just go to meet someone cool.
Right. Yeah. Don't meet anyone cool for a few. You've managed to know your whole lives. You could probably dead.
Okay, make a presence attack.
So, no problem.
Well, you're not displaying powers unless you want to. They don't know that you're Carhartt. You've got sort of your personal presence, your basic presence to operate off of. You're gonna have to work with a monologue or something.
All right, no problem. So I have 3d6 of presence.
You can get up to a few more if you tell them the right thing or tell them something important.
I say, look at this tattoo on the back of his neck. Do you know what that means?
That's our.
No, right?
Well, no. They're like, that's our song. And one of them says, "Cool, maybe we should all get one." That would rock if we all.
Wait.
Right.
It's more.
Wrong message, right? Yeah.
I go, it's more than just a song. This is the symbol of a saint, but not the kind of saint you're used to, not the kind of saint you get in church. A different kind of saint. You've attracted the attention of something you don't know how to deal with. Now, I'm going to go deal with it. But I don't want any of you to go do anything or meet anyone or definitely don't get any tattoos till I deal with it.
Roll your dice and add a die. 4 dice.
Else.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, I like the or else. Plus 2d6.
Or
5
else.
Dice. Got 5?
Okay. Got 5. Yeah, got 5. All right. Total roll of 18.
Not bad. None of these guys has higher than a 15. You definitely got, the one times enough for them to at least pay some attention. They very reluctantly agree. You're not sure if they're completely agreeing just to get rid of you. One of them is muttering something like, "Oh man, I just play bass," very much in the, what. When I woke up in the morning, I just played the bass. Now what the fuck is going on? Right, kind of an approach. But they all kind of get the idea that, something's not right with Salome, and they're willing not to piss off the scary guy, at least for a while. But
the scary guy that presumably knows a lot about tattoos because he's covered in it.
True, you're covered with tattoos helps a lot, but I would like to emphasize that they were not hit with enough of a presence attack to be utterly reliable. You know that if somebody else comes along and gives them a good line, they might fall for it. But you definitely have kept them from
quickly.
Right, and you've definitely kept them from doing anything proactively, so that's good. One last thing, and it's relevant: unusual looks. Roll.
Oh. All right. Look at my sheet real quick.
I love disadvantages. It's 8 or less.
It's less.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I roll a 14.
No problem. They are not put off by you in the sense of, now that this scary guy is gone, let's get out of town. So,
okay.
So
All
that's
right,
good.
fair enough.
So not bad, not bad. You've got as good as you could get without actually, like, picking up the house or something to scare the shit out of them.
I'm going to make an intro to. So I took his phone for a reason, and that is we have the same phone and it has GPS on it.
Right.
So I know a guy who could go into the phone, who could break the phone, and tell me where he's been in the last 24 hours.
You're enough of a shady dude working in and out of documented and undocumented territory that you know people who know phones. That's not a problem.
Yeah, that's
so,
what I thought.
Right.
Yeah, I make it.
Perfect. All right. Getting out there is no problem.
All right.
Excellent.
So I hop in my truck and start retracing his steps, looking for...
Right. Now, the good news...
I think I'll know it when I see it.
Now, the good news is that we've been playing a little asynchronously because you got up early in the morning.
Right.
And that means that you're probably getting out there to Antelope Valley sometime around 12:30.
Right.
So...
I'm thinking, why could...
the GM time foo kind of thing going on. Yeah. What's that?
Why couldn't this Karen have been in Santa Monica,
That's
Hollywood,
right.
or something?
Exactly.
That's what I'm thinking as I drive out there.
Right. Now the precise place that he met with people, just to let you know, looks like this.
Yeah. Okay.
Spotless Cleaners Limited.
My take is that
Spotless Cleaners Limited.
my take is that sign is left over from a former proprietor, because these buildings are now used primarily as residences, and the spaces out back, which are mostly like cracked pavement, is where people have set up like a fire pit or two and stuff like that. That's not immediately obvious from the road, and people go around the back to get in and out. So you have about 20 to 80 people living there on an extremely variable basis per building.
Okay.
So that's the kind of quote residence, if that's the right word, that your brother had been hanging out at for a while. And the actual cairn / tattooing event occurred out in the outskirts of the airfield. But so when you said he was retracing, you were retracing his steps. This is one of the steps, is just these buildings, just to give us a look at the people that he was dealing with, workers who are basically housed here temporarily in a rotating fashion.
Okay.
Right.
All right, I understand. You want to pause my
I
scene
do.
to sync the two scenes together?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Okay. So therefore, Rick, what do you do?
Well,
what does Kareem do?
She gave her speech, and I certainly don't want to act before I see what Mr. Tall and Scary is doing.
Okay. The only thing that I'll point out to you is that he looks and he pauses and he nods a little bit and says, "Okay, yeah, good enough. Go ahead," he says. "I have work to do. We have work to do. You might want to take it up with them, though." As he, he doesn't even beckon to the group of people standing around your car. They all kind of walk, not entirely zombie-like in the sense of like jolting, nerveless steps, but they walk in such an obedient fashion that it's not very normal. And then, so as he gathers them and then goes back down toward the working area, kind of throws a smirk over his shoulder at you as you go, you don't need a perception. You don't need a perception roll this time, but you recognize the tattooing that's like visible from under the clothes, around the edges of some of the workers.
And it says "move."
No, it doesn't say that, but you recognize the tattooing because it looks like Israel's.
Yes. No. It was a Unix joke.
Right. Okay.
MV is move.
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha. But in this case, no, they don't say MV, but they have some of the designs that you're familiar with from Israel.
Okay. I not so subtly tell Hope maybe we should be getting out of here, and I don't think we can go to the car because they're all standing around the car.
No, they're not. That whole group of people has completely walked with the foreman-looking dude, the scary guy, into the working area. That's when they walked like right through you and past you. That's when you got that good look.
Oh, okay. All right. So they didn't come to try and obstruct us in any way. They're just they said we can go look around and.
No, they said that he said maybe you should take it up with them, gesturing back toward the way you came, and then they faded off and he smirks at you and they all go down to the working area. So you might want to go and look where he gestured.
Okay, we'll do that.
Mm-hmm. Because the row of vehicles, which are very kind of half-track looking, Hummer looking, come buzzing out with clouds of dust behind them. There's 3 or 4 of those vehicles. The way they pull up in a diagonal line, diagonally parked horizontal line across your path, and the way that about 10, 12 people get out, and one of them has a bullhorn and says, "Stand down. This is Homeland Security of the United States government. Stand down. Kneel. Put your hands behind your heads." Hope says, "Holy shit, what is this?"
I kind of look back at her like, what the heck did you get me into?
And she's saying, "This can't happen. This is impossible."
And I said we probably should at least listen to them for the moment. So I start going down on my knees.
Okay. The response then is, "I repeat, kneel, hands on your heads." And then someone else shouts, "Gun!" They seem not to have perceived either they came out to murder you, or for some reason they're not perceiving that you're complying.
What was Hope complying too, or
she was starting to, yeah, just like you.
Okay, and where is this? Can I make a perception roll to see where this call for gun is coming from?
It's from the people who are advancing, and as soon as that happens, their weapons all come up to bear on you guys.
I'm assuming there's not an immediate place that both of us could safely get to cover with their guns all aimed at us.
Segment 9, you go first.
Can you tell me what else is nearby that I can see?
Scrub, maybe a few scattered engine, airplane parts like you saw at the in the photo. Tire tracks.
Is there a way I could get her into behind some cover on 9?
The only cover that's there immediately, the car, but one thing I like to point out about cars that your character would absolutely know is that no, a car door does not afford protection from bullet fire. Even though for some reason in the movies they're all made of titanium. Well, in real life, car doors are not made of titanium and they don't stop bullets. So,
made of aluminum.
Yes. And strangely enough, those bullets, which, are stopped by those, but they aren't. So, and your character is well aware of this. The kinds of weapons they're carrying will shoot through a car. So the car in and of itself is not cover. Visibility, perhaps, it might help with. But if they go on auto fire, that's not going to make any difference. So, therefore, at the moment, no. I mean, this isn't a boulder area. It's not like a glacial plain with massive boulders sitting around. Like I said, it's scrubland. There's not a lot. You may be in the position of, well, let's just say nothing about secret identity means you have to keep it secret from individuals.
Yep. So I think what I'm going to do is try and get some cover behind the car and switch.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Mm-hmm.
So I have instant change. So if we, I mean, whatever time is the cover a half move or
well, frankly, you were right there pretty much at the car when you were. Okay. So I don't even think you need to worry about. I think you don't have to worry about getting to cover. What's interesting, okay, first of all, do you want to have a power in use as well? Because instant change is a zero phase action. Since you don't have unluck, therefore I'm not going to hose you. And it's so therefore you can just tell me how it's set up and have that be that. This time. Well, until you need to switch it up later.
Okay. Well, I in my head, I know I didn't explicitly tell you
I'm handing it to you. Go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna. I had planned on that the horse and my mace of light, which are my defaults,
right.
Are what it would be. But I'm going to switch it. I'm gonna try and switch it.
Okay, make the roll.
So skill level, and so make that 12 or less, and I got a 7.
All right, and what do you get?
So I am getting a shield that is a force wall.
Fabulous, yes.
And so I can plant the shield into the ground, and the force wall appears, which is a 6-depth ablative force wall.
Perfect. And let's go ahead and
which auto fire is probably not too good against, but
right.
Breaks it down pretty quickly.
Let's hold off on some of the game terms for a moment. Both ablative and auto fire are not in the rules set, so those are special effects. Don't worry about that.
I'm just making sure. Yes, yeah. I can do the horse and the force wall are what.
Perfect.
Are what I have.
I just love the idea of we're seeing the car from their point of view as you guys go behind it. And then, of course, what rises up behind it now but this freaking Mesopotamian super warrior on his horse, right?
Oh, and by the way, I the other object I have is my lance.
Perfect. So I'm going to say that the visuals of you rising up like from behind the car are spectacular. So you're going to get surprise. You're going to get display of power. And you're going to definitely get all your presents. So that's 3 dice in addition. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. No, add 3 dice to your presents.
Okay, so I have a 15 presents.
That's 6 dice.
That's six dice altogether, and that is a 20.
Okay, so that's only going to give you. They're not going to lose actions. They will, however, be entirely behind you in terms of any speed-based comparison. You get in first, no matter what. So you've switched your pool. That's a half-phase action. You've instant changed, which is 0 phase, and you actually have a half move if you want it.
Okay. So I'm assuming since the Humvees came out from somewhere that I couldn't see them before.
Correct.
Before they drove out. And so I'm assuming that place where they came from is kind of out of view of the people now.
Right. I'm not quite sure what you're getting at, except that back at the officey area, the plaza-like officey area, one of the places that I showed you, has its own parking lot and stuff way over there, maybe half a mile away or a mile away, and that they would have come from there.
Oh, they came that far? I didn't get the impression they came that far. I got the impression they kind of came.
No, they didn't just appear out from out. There wasn't like an underground hangar that just opened up or anything like that.
Okay. Is there any cover that would be on the other side of them?
I don't think so. No, not the way my image of this. No.
Okay. My plan kind of got befuddled there.
I'm sorry about that. I mean, I just have a very open image of this whole area. I mean,
fair enough.
I mean, I sort of racked my brains for cover, but aside from building a brick wall with my mind right there, I'm not really coming up with much.
Yep. So I'm actually going to go back to my original thought without the great imagery you added, which is having the force wall planted there.
Okay, good enough. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For her to be behind.
Perfect.
And then I am going to go and try and do a move by on one of the end guys.
That's not a problem. Okay. So you're at the moment, though, you're going to simply be moving into position with you've got a half move left and you can't move and attack. So you're basically just going to get out there so that you're close enough to be properly positioned for such a thing.
Okay.
You might even turn it into a defensive move, like a dodge, and that way you're going to be very, very well protected against attack.
I'll go ahead. Since I'm only going to have the half move, I'm going to go ahead and wait and save that half move until just before. And if I need to dodge, I will. Otherwise, I'll move.
Yeah, they don't transfer that easily. Not to put too fine a point on it, you can't hold half an action. So therefore, in other words, you can't just distribute your half moves as you like until your next move. Take your half move and dodge.
Okay, then I'll do that.
Yeah. So, the kind of hold off to see, I'm holding off to see kind of little dance that people do all the way up until they're forced to move. We're not doing that. There are ways to save actions or to hold actions, but not like that. So zoom, you're taking that. That means that they're going to finally get their shot at you, and I'm testing out some of my mechanics here. Your CV therefore is going to be your dexterity is what? 13? 14?
So I have a 14,
right,
and then I have dodge and then skill level.
Perfect. So that's going to be +4 because you don't have. Oh, but you have a martial dodge, don't you?
Martial
right.
dodge. So it's
5.
It's +6.
+6, right? So that's going to be 20, right? So they got a horrible chance to hit, and even with a nice low roll, they totally. You basically do an awesome horse move where the horse is like practically at 45 degrees. Cutting at an angle and stuff, and the bullets like rip up the whole territory. A bunch of them spang off of the shield effect, and it's all very, very dramatic. But you're not hit, and you're in perfect position until we get to the next phase. All right, and Hope, is back there, gobsmacked but safe. So, Israel, your teleport is going to be kicking in not so long from now.
I wanted to ask about that. So I would say my involvement should kick in now. Really.
We're going to give it a segment. We still have to think about this a little bit, but a segment or so after he lands is I'm going to say you probably come in on 12. But you're not able to take action. Oh, not on 12. On 9, but you're not able to take action on 9. You just get there.
Okay. Then, the way I would describe it is, so we see this building with the blue back part of it right here,
mm-hmm.
and I'm pulling into a parking space behind it to go talk to people,
Right.
and then suddenly I'm pulling up next to
Right. Their car. Right.
Esperanza, Hope's car.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Exactly. And so.
Something's gone very wrong.
That's right. Whoa. And right. And the bullets rip the air. And you can actually hear them spanging off of the shield effect. You see a woman there. Who you maybe even passing might even remember her from the other day from the construction site. She was the one giving you the hairy eyeball. But never mind that right now, because you look up and you see the curator in obviously hot combat with soldier, border guard, scary-ass looking guys. So,
okay.
And so that's what's up. I believe we shall move to segment 2. Neither of you goes on 2, correct? You go on 3? Good, because they don't either. It's segment 3. And therefore, you will go. Curator goes first, I believe. I think you guys have the same decks.
Yeah, I think he has the higher deck.
Okay, yeah.
I think he has a higher deck.
I have I have 14 when I'm in superhero form.
Right.
So
go for
the
it.
same when I'm in my normal form. All right. So I am going.
Hey, Ron, I hate to ask, what page was the speed chart on again in the beta version?
I don't know.
Okay,
48.
I couldn't find it.
Oh,
48.
Okay.
I think it might have been 48.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look it up after I do my action.
No problem. I'll look.
So as I said, Ron, I'm going for the end guy. So
I heard you. Right.
Trying to create a line of fire between, not run down the middle and
right. Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Make myself a complete target. So I'm going to try and hit this guy with my lance. So the game effect on the lance is it is a 2d6 high impact blast that adds to a move by or a move through.
Got it.
It does no damage in itself.
Right. No, I get that.
2d6 is only for knockback.
Which is nothing wrong with a couple knockback added straight into with perfectly good knockback added to what is already a pretty forceful hit. So you're going at full speed, I presume, or move full if you want. It's harder to hit that way.
I'm going to move by. It's move by.
Okay, move by. So it's going to be modified by your speed. You're going to go at half speed?
Isn't move by...
it can be full speed.
Yeah, it's -2 is the... And then it's half your strength plus V5, right?
Yes, that's where the V comes in. Yes, correct.
Yeah. All right,
so -2 is not so bad.
Yeah, -2 to hit. I'm going to put my... there's still a lot of people shooting at me. I'm going to put my skill level in defense.
-2, -1. Keep going.
Yes. All right, so here we go. And I got a 7.
Not bad. That's not a problem at all. Yes. You completely nail them.
Okay.
And
so half my with the horse, I have a 25 strength, so half my strength is 2.5 dice, and
halves. Then right. Go on.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then the 18 inches running means that it's another 3.5. So that's
I guess we'll live with the halves and give you the extra whole die. Then that's probably the way to do it. So that's going to give you 9. So 9 dice of damage.
Is it 9? That
5.5 plus 3.5. Is that what I heard?
It's 2.5 and 3.5.
Oh, 2.5. So okay, 6. Go ahead, and then the extra 2.
6, and then the extra 2 are the
green ones. Yes. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Ooh, that's a pretty good roll. That is 28 stun and 3 body from 3 extra body from the so 28 stun and that's 8. That's 10 body from the
no problem. Dice. Okay, so the way
and then 3 more body from the increased knockback.
Fantastic. First of all, as far as the knockback is concerned, he's flung way out of the situation, and you have basically removed him from combat. He hits the dirt, rolls over about 15 times, and that's the last we see of that guy. And you've definitely flanked them, which is important. Your horse runs faster than a horse should, so you've definitely put yourself in an extremely advantageous position. They're all facing the wrong way. Israel, what do you do?
Well, I'm gonna now. Is this like traditional champions where I have to take my movement in the first half segment, then
Correct.
attack in the second?
Correct. You cannot attack and then move unless you have the martial arts maneuvers. I have a special martial arts maneuver that allows you to do that, but nothing else can.
Called and out.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm going to do I'm gonna take the opposite flanking side
Mm-hmm.
from where the curator is taken, and I'm gonna do a super leap and move through on the most nearest available agent on the opposite side of the line.
You're going to get +1 for surprise, and then the -1 for move and attack, therefore, is canceled out. So we're going to just use your regular CV. I do want you to roll to target your landing properly. So it's not against something very hard. What is your ordinary combat value?
5.
5. And so therefore, wait a minute. No, sorry. Your ordinary combat value should be just your dexterity.
13.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not doing combat values the old way. So we're just comparing dexes. So therefore, it's going to be. I know what it's against. It's just against the generic for a hex. Right. So so that used to be 3 in the new scale. It's actually 6. So that's a +7. So give me an 18 or less, just so that you hit the right spot. That's all.
I definitely gave you a less than an 18.
Perfect. So therefore, yes, you land in the right spot and are able to make your attack.
All right. So, and I should use my combat value for that, however.
You do. Well, is there combat value listed on your sheets?
Yes.
Okay, eliminate those.
But I could be mistaken about understanding how. Maybe I don't understand how combat value works now.
The way combat value works is it's not generated. It's the same as either your dex or your ego.
Oh, okay.
And so
my CV would be my dex.
Right.
And my skill level would have a CV of 14.
Correct. The way that it works now is that you the dexterity or ego. Your combat value is your dexterity or your ego as modified by maneuvers and circumstances, and then that's the combat value. So combat value is a shifting value. It's just whatever all the modifiers end you up at, looking at your base score. So,
all right, let's walk me through that. Then let's walk me through an attack.
Okay,
so I'm going to roll now.
You're going to roll, and you're going to have a 13, and you're going to have your pluses, which is your skill level, so that's 14.
Yeah, and the +1.
And so the difference between that and your foe, which happens to be 11, is 3. So,
right.
Sort of silly, but you end up back at 14. 11 plus 3. You take the difference.
So I want to add. Okay, all right.
Because the basic is the same. Yours, theirs, 11. That's all the same.
Now, in Champions now, it doesn't really matter how much I make anything by or anything like that.
Correct.
Whether I make the roll or not.
Correct. Or if you get a 3 or an 18. Right. Uh-huh. Right. And there's no half dice. There's no +1s. None of that either. So, like, you never roll like 3. It's never like, okay, this is a D6, but I have to subtract 1, and so none of that. So the dice are always just the dice.
So my damage using a move through would be my strength plus my velocity divided by 5, right?
Right. Velocity is the jump.
So my strength dice would be 6, and then my jump would be 3 more dice for a total of 9 dice.
Perfect.
So that's what I'm gonna roll. Sound about right?
Yes, and you are just like a bare-armed, tattooed streak of might suddenly appearing and landing right there. In fact, the observer will be forgiven for not actually seeing you jump, just seeing you come down.
Well, my role all that.
That's all right.
Here I am. That would be now again in Champions. Now, I'm giving you stun and body.
Correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Or no.
Yes.
Okay. But same as the old method.
Yep.
Okay. So 18 stun and 5 body.
No problem. There are some sacred cows I will not shoot.
Okay.
And so, in this case, given my rules for gangs, mooks, minions, and squads, all the same thing, you land on one or two guys and just basically flatten them. Just drive them into the dirt. Weapons go everywhere. They are completely taken out and bang their heads, and you rise up in the dust, right, that you've raised, the clouds of dust that you've raised. You rise up like a glowing, tattooed god of might from where they stand. Add 5 dice and roll your presence. And so that's 8 dice of presence attack. That you technically should have said, and I'm making a presence attack, but I can't help it. You just do. Obviously. Because, we're talking theme music. When the horse came out from behind that car, that was theme music, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, here we go. 29.
Excellent. Okay. So, that's actually going to more than be enough for all the rest of them to just lose their actions in shock and awe. You guys have completely... they're scattering back. Some of them are like... One of them... they're not fleeing openly, but they are deeply reconsidering their life choices at this time. 3 times. Presence is what we're talking about. So... Okay. So you have basically robbed them of their action. You guys are not shot at on this round. So then we hit segment 4. And you're up. What do you do?
So just game rule effect versus I'm just bouncing against my limitations. Do I consider that I have my velocity from when I did the move by?
This is one of those really, really aggravating things. What you hit was a panel border. Therefore, it's up to you to say what happens when we come out to the next panel border and see you coming out of it.
Okay.
So it's the Champions, as you will remember, is deeply agnostic about what actually happens from phase to phase in terms of movement. And every rule set has a whole bunch of kind of like circles and arrows and quick talking drawn in the air to try to accommodate the idea that if you were moving at the end of the last phase, what the hell happened to you by the time we get to this phase? And you can, in every edition I know, the author attempts to make a case for what they think should happen, and in each case, it's a little bit dodgy. So I'm just going to let it be dodgy. It's up to you. And then we'll deal with a special effect. If you say you stopped, then I'll definitely put you a distance from where you stopped because you had to skid. But the special effects will take care of you, but you can do what you want. Yeah.
On a play testing note, it would be pretty amusing if you put that monologue in the book.
That's the plan. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the plan.
What you just said.
Well, I don't want to diss the other authors because they struggled, but the curse was that Champions as such was never auto-duel champions. And the sort of desperate attempts to shoehorn in auto-duel champions when you needed it sort of stand out like a sore thumb, in my opinion. So, the second Champions 2 has cornering and velocity rules that clearly belongs to a completely different game that got sort of stuck there. So let's go ahead and say, do you want to still be in motion? You can be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You are undiminished in velocity. You
I'm
just
going to skew.
happen not to have gone anywhere, but never mind that part.
After I knocked him off, I'm going to make kind of a loop back, whatever the appropriate, tight loop that I can.
Dex roll. If you had acrobatics, you wouldn't have to roll. If you don't, make a dex roll.
7. So
excellent. Yes. Acrobatics is no longer a roll, by the way. It is a modification of movement and a defensive bonus.
Right.
That it permits the tight turns. You don't have to roll for it.
So I'm gonna cut back in and take kind of the next guy out.
Yes.
That I can that my movement.
Oh, fantastic! We're seeing like fantastic like Babylonian warrior combat, horseback combat here is what we're seeing. So
I'm gonna try and lance the next guy in line, but I have to move it. One of the limitations of power is I have to move at least 5 hexes.
Right, so right. That's why you're doing this whole runaround kind of thing. So go for it. Fortunately, you were on this huge open plain that is.
It's great. It's great
just
for
made for
lance combat.
Absolutely, just made for what you're doing. Yeah.
So skill level still in defense. Move right. By. Again.
Now I would say machine gun fire tears up the spot that you just vacated in your tight turn, but they were all gobsmacked by the presence attack, so there isn't any.
And I roll an 11.
Aha.
So I have -2 for the move by because my skill level is in defense, and I rolled an 11.
Okay, that will hit.
Okay.
Right. You guys need to worry about 16s and 17s at this time against these guys. So.
Got it.
Yeah.
Rolling the green dice for the extra knockback. Oops. 11. Okay, so that is 25 stun and 7 body, and then the bonus body is 2.
Excellent. And so that's no problem. Again, that's 2 guys, or we're dealing kind of with a squad situation. So when you say the guy, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2. And given that you charged into more of the main body of them, I'm going to let 2 of them go this time. And so, and you'll see that doesn't actually quantitatively matter when I explain what we're doing in a minute. But the point is that for visual purposes, you've bam the one guy, Captain America, right? Hit the one guy and he takes out the guy who was standing behind him because he's just that good. So so that's basically what happens.
That was my 4.
Yes, and so bam bam, right? And so then Israel, I believe you're first on 5. Is that correct? Segment 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm next on 5.
Excellent. Right. The last, so what I'm gonna last do, 2 or 3 guys are very much, they thought they were, stand down, gun, they were in formation, they were acting like they were trained, and they have just been taken completely off their feet by this.
Literally.
So, Israel, what are you going to do?
I'm going to try. Oh, yeah. I'm going to the nearest one. A strength versus strength disarm. Meaning I'm going to take his rifle away.
Okay, it's just a grab. You can do that.
Just grab. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's just since I have a universal. Well, that's a grab though, right?
Yeah.
Because I have a universal +1 with all my martial arts.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a grab though. There is no martial grab. So yes. And
then I'd like to do another presence attack. This time, I want to simply casually bend the gun in half, which I should be able to do my strength.
Oh yeah, there's no roll for that. Yeah, you got a 30 strength. It's like so. Yeah, this is Luke Cage. This is Luke Cage. When Luke Cage bends a gun, he bends it. Right.
Right. I don't really want to scare these guys off without hurting anyone.
Right. Now I'm going to estimate. I should have been doing this already, but I'm going to estimate that you've probably burned about 20 endurance at this point.
Yeah. I should have been tracking that.
That's okay. Hold on. At this, I didn't anticipate it being all that important in this fight, but I'm guessing at about 20, maybe a little less.
Okay.
Maybe a little less. You got to spend it for the strength and the powers. So actually, that does bring it to probably about the same. But I'm thinking for the curator, he's got to spend it all for those strikes and the high impact and stuff like that in terms of active cost. So that's probably going to be a good solid 20 to 24 on his part by now too. So is my take.
I would have guessed 15, but yeah, sure. If it's 20.
Yeah,
we'll put it at 20.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, we can go back and check it out, but I think in that zone. So. Cool. And then you're going to roll for that presence then. You're -1 for being in combat.
Yeah.
And you are, but on the other hand, what with the display of power, very violent actions, and so on. And the fact that your tattoos are gleaming and they know what those tattoos are, I'm going to give you a couple for that too. You can add 7 dice to your presence. Actually, 6 with the -1.
6, right. Okay.
That 6 plus 3 makes 9 dice.
Right.
And just so you know, Ron, I've been keeping track of my end. It's 26. So
okay.
I've been keeping track.
I said 24. Not bad, huh, for a spitball. Yeah.
It was, but I've just been keeping track.
I appreciate that.
It's the 6 from the force wall that
yeah. Oh, right. I forgot about that.
At the beginning that you forgot about.
Yeah.
34 with the presence attack.
34. Yeah, that's the end of that. They're completely they're in the dirt. They're running. They're giving up everything. So you guys are there in the blowing dust with these guys down. I'm going to say that we've pretty much set up for a good solid investigation into the Coyote Malverde cult at this point.
Okay.
That you guys could act upon. And I'd love to roleplay Hope, who would, of course, recognize you, and who has just discovered that her boyfriend is the curator. So all manage of things. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to be sort of amused by this. She didn't know, but one look at you, and she squints, and she says, and that makes so much sense, and rolls with it. Because now she thinks about it, who else would be the curator? Except her guy. I mean, there's like a straight line between the two of you, and it's a very short line. She gets it. So, grimly and humorlessly, she says, "That's my guy." That's her response.
I'll admit I'm shocked by that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my turn to be grim and humorous.
Yeah. But she's kind of got this note. Yeah. She's got this kind of like, we don't fuck around now.
Yeah.
I've got my guys here now. All right, who's asked to be kicked now? That's kind of Hope at the moment. So cool. I'm sorry, Jason, go ahead.
Oh, I just turned to him and say, so that would be Hope, eh?
and she looks at you and says, your boss showed me your papers. They all looked in perfectly good order, didn't they? And she doesn't say so in a threatening way, but more in kind of a and yeah, we're all in this together kind of way.
Sure, I shrug non-committally.
Of course, right. And so
the character's personality.
Communication achieved. Perfect. Okay. So guys, I think I'm going to call it for the night. But you can see that we're quote this would be treated as an in media res for the next session were we to play. In other words, I wouldn't like cut to the next day or something because you guys have stuff to do at this point, and there's a whole bunch of information flowing down the pike at you and everything. I would like to tell you that you were up against my first attempt at Gang Minion Goons rules, in which they were treated as a single character, rather than I didn't have to like roll for like 9 guys trying to hit you and stuff like that. I may make them a little bit more competent in terms of attack. That's one of the things I came away with.
I like that idea a lot, Ron. I always hated in every edition of Champions trying to deal with like tons of agents.
I'm really trying to get away. As I mentioned to you, me too. And as I mentioned to you last time, I'm trying to get away from the idea that the game scales down. I mean, as soon as you get down, these are not 100-point characters. As soon as you get under 100-point characters, you've got much cleaner, more abstracted resolution rules. It was maybe a little easier than I anticipated. Maybe I played it a little too light. We'll see. I'll first play test of them. But
because I don't think they actually got a shot off.
No, they didn't. But that's part of it too. That's why I was thinking maybe stronger defense, stronger presences. Because I was just rating them at 10. Maybe rating any such group at 15 because they're acting in a group is a good idea. You know that, or maybe
because they're competent. They're competent, skilled.
Right. That's part of it. I think you know what. Right. The presence they have should be rated as the same units as the number of hits it takes to get through them. So therefore, the presence attack, the only presence attack that would have hit them for anything significant would have been that last one, because that would have given them a 20. They would have 5 presence per unit of how much it takes to get them down. Also, they keep all their full competence until they're gone, until they're completely beaten. So even if you have them down to like 1 unit left, they've still got the same roll to hit. They've still got the same damage. Conservation of damage, right? As you whittle them away, they get tougher. The unit gets tougher. Okay. So that way you can't just like the last one is still, unless he's cowed.
Well, maybe
is still there, right?
Maybe under that theory, the last one would be the toughest as far as presence.
Potentially, yes.
The least easily impressed.
Right, potentially, or the most desperate at that point. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, along those lines. But it seems it was a nice fly for the first attempt, I think. And I also quite liked a lot of things. I mean, you guys are starting to feel your characters and know what your characters can do and actually put your powers to use and stuff like that. I jump in the middle and punch one is a perfectly good action for Carhartt.
And that's kind of what he's made to do.
Yeah, works fine. Yeah. I was sort of not hoping. I mean, let's just say that looking at that field of like airplane part scraps, I was kind of looking forward to like you guys having the rough and tumble fight in the middle of all that. It just didn't. Didn't work out that way. That's all. It just didn't work out that way. Yeah.
I was kind of looking for that too at the beginning when I was saying, how far away is that?
I know. I didn't quite process it, and I didn't want to like engineer it. I wanted to work with what we knew and not totally engineer it. But in retrospect, I might have found a way. I might have found a way to stick you in the middle of all those, just because that's like golden for superhero combat, is all those airplane pieces scattered everywhere. But maybe another time. So anyway, thank you though. I hope you guys have seen some interesting things. Primarily what I'm aiming at though is how easy it is to prep if all you do is think about the characters and what's going on with them. You really don't. I didn't have to make up a whole bunch of extraneous shit for my plot and then find hooks to drag you into it. You guys are hooking me with everything you've got about your characters. You're the plot hooks, not me. That's a big part of all this, and it's really easy to do. So cool. Look forward.
Does that seem to work well because the group is only 2?
No. I think it works really well.
Harder with a larger group.
Actually, I think that the crisscrosses with a larger group are so multifarious that the GM is like got such a cornucopia that we all know that it's going to be more like an ensemble with characters getting more or less treatment per session or based on what's already happened. It's just you have to remember not to let anybody languish too long. And that's why running sort of glances, that's why I'm always asking, like, what's it like when your character gets up? So that way we get a glance of things like your disadvantages, a glance at things like your psychological limitations, just so that we all know they're still there. And so therefore, when they hit harder, and also the way that your character interacts with them can set up the way that they'll come into more active form later. And that way I'm running with the way you think that you interact with your disadvantages, not with the way I think you interact with your disadvantages. Those are all those are kind of all involved. But it was a lot of fun, and I appreciate your time. Appreciate your time and attention, Jason. Especially, thank you for joining us.
This is good. It's from the perspective of somebody that's played a lot of hero systems. Going to Ireland, you go there and everyone's speaking English, but they sort of mean different things, and things are just—it's all different.
Right. No, that's
I
true.
appreciate that experience.
That's true.